Hi, everybody.
Afternoon.
I think if Mark and Richard are happy, we should start.
Absolutely, Simon. Are we okay to start now?
Yeah, that's fine. I was only going to say, I think I recognise a few people from this morning, but if people don't know me, I'm Simon. I normally do the social media, so I'm venturing out from behind the camera. So hello, everybody. And I shall pass you over to Mark.
Thank you very much, Simon, and hi, everybody. Nice to see so many people here on this this Saturday afternoon here. So just want to start by thanking BABS for inviting myself and Richard to talk about a little bit about how we've been doing things at Grand Central over the past certainly the past few 6 months or so, with respect to Jamulus and Jitsi and moving forward in this virtual format. You may or may not be aware that we have an article that was out in February's HEX. And if you saw that and that kind of directed you here, a lot of what I'm just about to say is background information will be quite familiar. So a year ago, everything changed for all of us, as we all know. And most of us ended up gravitating in some form or other to Zoom and using that as a chorus, our new chorus rehearsal format. And that's very much what Grand Central did. But while Zoom is fantastic, we can see each other, we can interact in that way. From a singing point of view, you obviously are only able to get, usually one person who's on mute, and you may be able to duet with them, or whether that's the director, your section leader, a member of your section, your chorus, whatever. But you're not able to get that real-time interaction, that real-time harmony singing that as barbershoppers we're really all about. I mean, it's 4-part harmony for a reason. So with a mind to address this, Richard went on a crusade really, and just embarked on this mission and found this software, Jamulus, which he's going to be telling you all about, and I'm sure you've heard in one form or other, or may even be using as well. And Jamulus is this low latency software package that enables us to sing together. And I have to say, when we first did our first rehearsal with Jamulus at Grand Central, it was a really amazing experience to be able to hear 4-part harmony for the first time in about 6 months. It was brilliant. Now, Jamulus is great. We can all hear each other, and Richard's going to be going into all the details and everything in a second in his presentation. But what it still doesn't allow us is to be able to see that interaction again. So we lost in being able to hear each other in real time and sing together and do section work. We lost that visual element again. And whilst some groups have tried using Jamulus and Zoom, you again have the weird issues with the latency that you get with Zoom. And so around Christmas time, we heard of this software package called Jitsi, which is low latency video software as well. And really, since Christmas, we've been implementing that into our rehearsals as well, to use Jamulus and Jitsi to try and get synchronous video and audio, low latency, to allow for real-time singing. And it's something that's been really exciting at Grand Central, that we've been able to kind of lead the way for this, for BABS, for barbershop singing in general, really. And today we're just going to be sharing our approach with you. So without further ado, Richard, I think I'll pass over to you. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Mark. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all well, and I hope I don't send you all to sleep with this. So stay alert, please. Okay, I'm going to go straight into sharing my screen and doing a presentation for you. I will be sharing my whole screen with you because I'm going to be bitting and bobbing about a little bit. So forgive me if there's things there that you don't want to see. But here we go, going straight into the presentation. I just need to make a little adjustment over here so that I can see that people are still watching. Okay, so here we go. If you want to make notes along the way for some questions at the end, that would be really handy so that I can just keep the flow going, if that's all right. Hopefully I'll deal with a lot of the points you may want to raise along the way. But as Mark has explained, what we've tried to do with this presentation is update one that we presented to chorus directors just before Christmas, because we have now moved into the world of Jitsi as well as Jamulus. So this is essentially what we're going to talk about today, just to show you how we've done it. Okay, so I'm just waiting for my, there we go, it's responding. The presentation involves mostly picture type approach. So there are a few symbols in there. You'll see the Jamulus symbol there, which is the cloud, the blue cloud with the lightning bolt in it. I've represented singers by a howling wolf. I thought that was probably the most appropriate thing to put in there for a singer. Where I'm talking about using tracks, I'm primarily referring to Audacity, but there are others available, so I'll say that now. But if I say Audacity, read into it whichever track playing device you use. And then there's the symbol for Jitsi. Now, the point about all of this is that all this software that you see there, including the singers, are free of charge. So we haven't paid anything for this level of activity. What are the basics? Well, really, we want to be, as Mark said, we want to be singing together in real time. This is the driving force. Sitting watching Zoom and trying to sing one at a time against a strange background of noise was not really satisfactory. So very early on, we decided we were going to fight this one and try and make something work. The point about Jamulus is that with loads and loads of singers on board, you are able to sing with each other all at once in real time. But this is an audio package. It's not a video package, it's audio. So we can only listen to each other on this one. Okay, so we can't see a director. We have to listen, and that's part of the process. So how do we keep in time? Well, we add Teach Media onto one of the slots on Jamulus. And that allows us to keep time because we're singing along with a track. We don't have a director, so we need something to give us a pulse to work to. Normally we have the director there waving his hands and telling us what to do. Well, on Jamulus, you can't see him. You can get Zoom going at the same time, but that doesn't go at the same speed as Jamulus, so it doesn't work. So what we try to do then is to say, okay, well, let's take this one step at a time. And the first step was to work with tracks. And you can see, as well as giving us the opportunity to keep time, it also allows us to demonstrate the songs we want to teach, and it allows us to go into parts practice. Now that's quite a useful tool for us to have, because what we're able to do is to go and do section rehearsals. We can sing in our sections in separate rooms in Jamulus. So it's very like a real rehearsal venue. We have the main room where, let me go back a slide, main room where everybody's in the main hall together, all singing together. And then when we need section rehearsals, we all go off into different rooms and have a little sing with our own section leaders, with our own tracks. And so far that's been pretty successful, I think it's fair to say. If we wanted to, within Jamulus, we can actually move the voices around as well. I'll say that at this point, but there's more detail on that we use. But that is a useful tool to be able to do. So whilst I've shown them clustered like that, you can actually achieve that, funnily enough, within Jamulus if you have the patience, but it's not necessary really. Okay, going on then. So what we really want to be able to do is to share our sounds, but we also want to be able to see each other. So this is where really since Christmas, Grand Central has been making use of the program called Jitsi, which is not dissimilar to using Zoom, except for it just works quicker. It works at far less latency, and gives us the opportunity to line up what we're doing in terms of singing and watching what's going on. So we can see each other. Okay, let's move on another one. You can see I'm going to whip through all these slides. There we are. We're seeing each other, singing with each other at the same time, and seeing each other do it. There is a benefit to this, added benefit, in that actually it means that we can keep an eye on whether the guys are presenting the song as well as singing it. So it's quite useful from that point of view. Moving on, the next step in the basic setup is that in due course we're planning to stream and share with our visitors. We're just in the last knockings of getting this set up now. Very soon we hope to be able to use probably YouTube to stream the work that we're doing out into the public arena, so that, for instance, as in a normal rehearsal room, you might have guests come along and sit at the back of the hall and have a listen. We'd quite like it if we could invite people to our rehearsals via YouTube and see us using Jamulus and Jitsi live, working in an actual rehearsal. So that's basically where we're heading for. Okay, now go into a little more detail. The sort of stuff that people have been asking us is, what do you need to be able to make Jamulus work and Jitsi? Well, Jamulus itself is a piece of software that runs on a server, okay? And that, by that I mean that you have to set up an external server away from any of your home computers. You can do it on home computers, but it's far better if you have an independent server outside anyone's home, because then you're not dependent on any person. Anyone can control it. Jamulus itself is able to run on Windows, on Macs, and on Linux. It will run on all those environments. If you're using Windows, you'll need to get a copy of this thing called ASIO for All. That's a strange looking thing, but it basically allows the sound card to work with Jamulus on a Windows computer. So but you don't need it on a Mac and you don't need it in Linux. So next in the list, you see the server, and you'll see that in brackets beside it, I've put private. That's because we've found in our experience that if we go for a cheaper option of sharing a server with other people, if that server gets busy, then the traffic reduces the quality of the signals we get, and the data gets broken up. So the recommendation is to go with a private server. And all this sort of stuff that I'm talking about, whilst it sounds a little complicated right away, is stuff that we can help with. We've documented all this, and we have all documents ready to help people if they're interested in moving down this line. Okay, the next thing on the list is the computer. Now, people have often asked, well, can I not use my iPad? Can I not use my iPhone? No, is the answer to that one. This works off computers. And you'll see later on when we start talking about the video side of things, that computer really needs to have a webcam attached as well. So that's basically what we're after in terms of getting the software onto a computer. Then how does it work? Well, it works through Ethernet cable rather than Wi-Fi. It will work on Wi-Fi, but again, because of the way Wi-Fi works, it breaks the signal up. So what we have to do is to connect to our routers in the house with an Ethernet cable. I'm going to show you lots of diagrams in a minute which explains all this. But essentially, that is a requirement of the system. Now, usually, unless you've got a really good quality mic and headphone, you're going to need to have a decent headset as well. And again, all these things, they look like they're sort of adding up cost and all the rest of it. But actually, in a moment, I'm going to show you what it involves. Jitsi itself is the next step, so you can get the video up. And then, of course, you need, I've mentioned earlier that we use Audacity, and we also use Reaper. It's another piece of computer software that we can use for playing our tracks through the system. So that gives you the detail of what is required hardware and software wise, which is all a bit of a confusing state of affairs. So I'm just going to move on. Oh, before I do, there's some idea of what these things have cost us so far. We've not paid for Jamulus, we've not paid for ASIO for All. Our server, we're paying about £60 a month, I think is probably what we're on at the moment. And that gives us the access pretty much whenever we want it. It's certainly an awful lot cheaper than hiring a hall every week. If you think £60 a month, that's pretty cheap, really. So we don't feel too aggrieved at paying that. Computers are down to individuals, and again, this may be something that will come up in questions and answers, and I'm happy to deal with it at that point. So if you've got questions about computers, just make a note to ask us at the end, and we'll talk about those. Ethernet cable, well, if you pay 20 quid for an Ethernet cable, you're going to get one that's about 100 meters long, I guess. They're not expensive, they're very cheap. And the headsets that we've recommended to our chorus are actually a little bit on the pricey side, but again, we've adopted a philosophy because we want the chorus members to do it. Then we have, as a chorus, decided that we will fund that, yeah, and we have actually supported the guys with getting the headsets. That has enabled us to get pretty much, I think we're on about 85% of our chorus members have signed up for doing this activity. And every week we get 40 guys turn up. So we're pretty pleased that we've got it running pretty smoothly. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. Sorry, I'm not inviting interruptions during this, but I think it's probably worth it. So what does the individual guy have to think about? Well, hopefully he's got a computer. If not, then maybe that's something that he may need some help with, whatever. The Ethernet cable and the headset are the only two things that involve cost. And I think it's quite important to push that right up the front end and let you know that that's what's involved. Okay, so when we've loaded the software on the computer and we start the computer up and click on the button, the Jamulus button, what do we get? This is what we get. We get a little black user interface, which looks a little confusing to begin with, but if you actually look down the bottom left-hand corner of it, you'll see the sort of things that you're familiar with using if you use Zoom or such other chat type software. It is, in a way, very similar to chat software. So there's a mute myself button. So if I don't want people to hear what I'm saying to my wife or something like that, if we're having a row, I can mute that so that no one else can hear it. But probably it's better if I mute myself while I'm singing so no one can hear that either. The settings is what it says, and I'm not going to go into that in great detail right now. And then there is a chat button, just like you get in Zoom or Skype or anything else. You just type a message in a box and basically you can chat with each other while you're online. The connect button is how you get onto the internet. So that's what that looks like when it comes up. And when you press the settings thing and you start connecting, you'll see that you're actually able to connect to lots and lots and lots and lots of different servers all over the world. On there, you're only seeing the European ones because they're the closest and they come to the top of the list because they're the quickest. But essentially, this product is being used worldwide. So when Mark and I first started using it, first time we went onto one of these sites, took a chance and had a go at one of them. And we hadn't been on for what, quarter of an hour, and two American barbershoppers came on and started chatting with us, and we ended up singing. So that was the first time we went on, and we were into it straight away. And at that moment, we knew that was what we had to do for the chorus. That was what drove us forwards with the whole project. So, but basically, if you have your own private server, then it just goes in that little box in the bottom right-hand corner where it says server address. So you just pop your address in there and then you connect and you're in. And when you get in and you're connected up with your Ethernet cable and your headset and everything, and you start talking, it starts giving you some signals. And basically, that's just me on there in this picture. But what actually happens, and this next picture is a bit alarming initially, but when you see the next one, you'll realize that actually, yeah, we have got the whole chorus on board. Okay, there's 35 members there joining in. And I'm just going to go back a slide because that was important to get to that point. And I'm just going to show you that within that screen on the right-hand side with the color, the green and yellow on it, the column there above my name is how I control what I'm listening to. And for every other name that comes in, including my own, I can control how loud it is by using the slider up and down. And I can control which ear I hear it in by moving that round pan button at the top, and it will move it from one ear to the other. So I can do that with every single person that comes on. So on the next screen, you'll see that every single person has a slider and every single person has a pan button, so you can move it around all over the place. And that is essentially how we sing together. The green lines you see going up the screen there are the different volumes that the guys are singing at. So that's one thing that we have to control. Anyway, there we go. That's what it looks like with lots of users on board. Okay, now that I'm going to move forwards to the next sort of element, which is how do we actually set it up? How does it actually work in the technical sense? So normally, if we have a computer and we connect to the internet, we do it through a router, and that is that basic setup you're looking at there on that picture. The Ethernet cable, as you know now, is a requirement rather than Wi-Fi. But apart from that, it is a standard setup. What comes next? Well, what comes next is when we press the button and join into Jamulus, that screen I've just shown you previously with all the green lines on and green and yellow lights on, that is represented by the button to the left of the computer, or the box that says Singers. And that represents the program within your computer. And you'll see that in order for the program to work, you've got to have this headset. So the flow of information is from your head through the headset into the program, through the computer, through the router, onto the World Wide Web, and then onto the server, and then back again, back and forth between the different singers. Now then, on there, you'll see on the right-hand side, it says public servers. And that's the bit that we would recommend that you don't do. So what we've done is to change it to a club server. And again, that's stuff that we can offer advice on. So I'm not going to go into great detail now. Safe to say that that's the best route that we have found. Okay, moving on a little bit. So how do we get to hear the tracks? Well, whoever's running the session sets up a second setting of Jamulus, and they feed their tracks into that. So what we have at the top line there is the singers, and the second line down is the tracks. And we end up with a situation where we have loads and loads and loads of singers and a track. And all that goes backwards and forwards across the web, and we can all hear each other all at the same time. Very clever stuff. And this is an important bit, that we can record directly from our server, from Jamulus. And the joy of this is that the recording comes in 3 different ways. It comes either as individual voice tracks for each singer. So that's not an overall one, that's for each singer, you get a track. And what Jamulus is really good about is that it then says, okay, well, we know a lot of people use Audacity and we know a lot of people use Reaper. So we're going to create projects for each of those as well. So when you download it, you get the single tracks, you get a project for Audacity, and you get a project for Reaper. Okay. Now what I'm going to do at this stage is just pull away from the presentation, and I'm just going to take the opportunity. Can you still all see that? Yeah. I see that I'm going to do some track playing. I'm going to go back up to this top one. Back at Christmas, when we presented to the forum, to the directors forum, we played them this track that we had prepared. And this is the recording that I've just been talking about, all the individual voices coming down, no editing, nothing, it's just as it was. So hopefully this is going to work. I hope you'll be able to hear it all. So will you wave frantically if you don't?
Okay,
so it's a little quiet to start with. I'll just let it run for a few seconds. They're all getting ready. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to go at the moment. Let's pick the wrong one. I wanted that one.
Bow, bumba dooba bow, baba dooba dooba bow, bumba dooba dooba doo, bow. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, bumba dooba, the fire is so delightful, and since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, it doesn't show signs of stopping, and the roads are gone for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. Basically, at that point, we were not using any video at all to support. We had no director. The guys were just listening to the track and singing along with it. The track is not included in what you just heard. It's just the guys that you can hear. So we were pretty pleased at that stage that we'd got that level of singing coming out from the guys just in an ordinary rehearsal. That was what was coming out. So then we sort of move on. I'm going to go back to the presentation now, I hope, from the current slide. There we go. And the next thing is the advent of Jitsi for us. And this is when we discovered at Christmas, as Mark said, that we could actually use some video along with the audio. And that essentially, I think, is about where I'm up to with it. Let me just double check my notes. Yeah, so we talked about the recording. This comes in as the Jitsi comes in as an extra layer, if you like, and this is why you need your webcam. You'll see on the computer icon I said with webcam. Okay, so that's what we need for that. What do we use it for? Well, so far what we've used it for is singing with the director and all tracks. It doesn't matter which, we do both. We use it for chorus rehearsals, quartet rehearsals, section rehearsals. I'm coming to the next one just briefly afterwards. We do coaching, we have meetings, we've done shared events, we can in the future now do open nights. So all that is just great. And the other benefit is that if you actually go on that main website with all those Europeans, you can go and sing with lots of other people as well. It works right across the world. Now, just the other thing, well, before I finish off, soloing with tracks for better quality singing. This is something we've discovered of late, which has been a real boost to us, because we are able to, with the buttons that are on the system, you can solo people or you can mute them. And if you ask people to sing solo with the track and only with the track, just them and the track, and then as a director, you listen to what's going on, my word, you really hear how well the guys are singing. It really makes a huge difference. It's a great tool, and we can talk more about that again in due course. So I think probably now, there we are, there's the basic concept, listening and viewing at the same time, and all from home. We don't go anywhere, we're all sitting at home on our computers. I've just got a couple more tracks that I just wanted to play for you, or parts of tracks. The first one was actually done on Wednesday. Now, like I say, we're not proficient yet in using Jitsi, and this first one, I tried to take a recording of what we were doing, but I got the volume levels wrong. So guys, you're going to hear a lot of clipping on this, but what I'd like you to do is just to watch how the singing ties in with the video. It's very, very close. Now, with any luck, you'll be able to see this. I think it kicks in straight away. Let's have a go.
Bow,
Oh, no, it's gone back to the other one. Hang on, double click it. Here we go. I'll just pull that through a little bit. Okay, here we go.
Now I found you, dear, I will stay right here. Going on the street where you live. I have often walked down this street.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because I think that's probably enough for you to get the idea of what's happening there. Okay, because of the sound issue, I have another group that I sing with, a very, very small group, and what I asked them if they would mind if I just took a little sample from them last night with a better sound quality. So I just wanted you to hear a better sound quality. Let me go through. Yeah, let it run. They'll join us in a moment.
You are the promised kiss of springtime that makes the lonely winter seem long.
Okay, and that's enough of that one. It's just enough for you to get a taste that the thing does actually work, that's all. So really now, I think probably we've reached the point where I've said more than enough. And I think we're going to go into questions and answers now. So I'd like to open it up and let people sort of ask us what they wish to ask us, please. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing as well. There we go.
Great. Richard, I've got a couple if you're able to help, and Mark, of course.
Yep.
Yes.
Hi.
Go for it, Martin.
Hi. Thanks, guys. That's great. My experience of it so far. Just talk to me about port forwarding, because what we've done as a quartet is that instead of setting up a private server, one of our guys port forwarded on his computer, and when we check into that, and that seems to work okay. Is that as good as or better than a private server, would you suggest?
I've also done that. I've also set up on my own computer. That was the first thing I did when I first set it up, just to see if it would work. And it is fine, and you can use it in a small group. It's great, but I think when you're working with a large chorus, you're much more secure going onto a server, external server. And in our experience, the best way to do it is on a private server where we pay for our own space.
Okay, great. And just a quick one, if you don't mind. The headset you mentioned, you had on there a sampling rate of 48 kilohertz. Is that a minimum requirement?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to pick up on that, Martin, because I see I've got the chat open and a couple of people have asked about the headset. There are lots of different headsets that you can go with. The one that the chorus have chosen to go with in the end is the one that I'm wearing at the moment, which is a Sennheiser. The SC60 is the exact model number, but we ended up going for off the recommendation of somebody who was using them regularly for work, and they were able to get a buying in bulk for the chorus. We were able to get a slightly better rate as well. The benefits of these smaller earpieces as well is it's easier to take one side off so that you can hear your own voice back as well. Some of the over-ear ones, most of the higher quality over-ear ones are absolutely fine, but some of the lower quality over-ear ones kind of muffle all the sound from outside. So we just find that for us, this works well and has that 44 kilohertz sampling rate that we're after as 48. Well.
Yeah.
48,
so,
sorry, yeah, 48
so
kilohertz.
Check the sampling rate then, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go. Alfredo's got his hand up.
Yes, hello. Thank you.
Hi.
I'm from Switzerland, and the French part of Switzerland, Geneva. And I have been working for 3 months with Jamulus. I'm really happy with that. But I have a question. I was able to put in place a server, and at home with 12 singers worked well. But I had to move to a cloud server, but I having still problems with some kind of crackling. And I have a cloud server in an AWS. What is your advice for the RAM and the CPUs in your case? Because you are 32 or 28, I think. Yeah, 28.
I can see Mark looking at me, and I'm looking at him.
Yes,
we haven't got Frank with us. If we had Frank with us, we'd be able to give you a straight answer straight away. But
yeah, go for it.
All I'm going to say is that we did look at various servers along the road, and we found that the less expensive options didn't work as well. That it's a case of, to put it bluntly, you get what you pay for.
Okay.
And we were trying to save money along the way, and actually the £60 a month isn't that much to pay. And we've got, I forget who we're with now, because Frank made so many different sorties into different servers. You know, this was part of our learning process, was which server is going to give us what we want, because we had all the same problems. We had people cutting out, we had people intermittent sound, we had all sorts of stuff going on, and then it would suddenly just disappear altogether for no reason, you know, all this sort of stuff. And what it ultimately came down to was getting a good server. Now, what I would suggest is that on the presentation, I think I wrote down the email address for you to contact us. And what I would suggest is that if you write to our email address at technology, that's technology@grandcentralchorus.com.
Yep.
Yeah. I suggest you write to that, and there are half a dozen of us on that team, Frank being one of them, and he will give you a straight answer to that question.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, just a last question. Do you have also a private server in the cloud for Jitsi, if I understand?
Yes, I believe I think it's a private server from the same source.
Yes.
I believe.
That's how I understood it as well, Richard.
Thank you very much.
That's okay. I'm just going through the questions as well. People have submitted. Mark Pickin asks, can you say a bit more about how you use soloing on Jamulus? Yes. So I'll take that one if you like, Richard.
Lovely. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So if you remember the diagram that Richard showed when you had the what Jamulus itself looked like, underneath, when there were all the different singers up, underneath each one is the option, a little tick box where you can either solo or mute or group them. We're not going to talk about grouping, but you can mute or solo individual singers. So what you would do if you wanted to say, as a, let's say you're the tenor section leader and you wanted to just listen to how the tenors are doing in the context of the whole chorus can be singing, but if you tick the solo button on those individual singers, you will only hear those inputs in yourself. It does nothing to what everybody else hears. It doesn't affect, if it was me doing it, it wouldn't affect what Richard would hear on a rehearsal, but for you, the user, you would just hear those. So you could take any subsample of the chorus that you might want. You could make your own, fantasy quartets from your chorus. And what we found when we were to go back to what Richard was saying with the tracks, when we were asking people, when you ask people to sing with the whole chorus, with everybody singing at the same time along to the tracks, because everybody's singing, obviously the amplitude of the sound and the volume levels are just a bit louder because we're all singing together. When you just solo the tracks and sing by yourselves, naturally everybody comes way down in volume, and it's just a much quieter and more effortless sound, because especially because the microphone that we're using, you can see how close it is to my mouth here. We found that kind of produced the lovely effortless singing that we're after, really, from our guys. And it was, as the chorus directors, you're then able to just have everybody completely off solo, so you hear everybody, but they're only singing with the tracks. Now, we don't do that all the time because we want our guys to be able to sing with each other. That's the whole point of this exercise. So the solo is just adds that flexibility of from the chorus leadership point of view, to be able to hear a sub-selection for whatever you want, any permutation under the sun, really. Hopefully that answered your question there. Let's just see. Getting the public server, so a question from Liz, getting the public servers set up requires a fair degree of technical knowledge. Do you have this within the chorus, or do you buy it in? So we were fortunate in that we have the technical expertise to do all that within the chorus. But as Richard has said, there is that that email available. If you don't have that, we can help in what way we can and provide some advice as well from that point of view.
We've also put together, thinking that this might happen, we've also put together a set of documentation that we can share with you as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Rick. Question just popped up from Tom Holden. Did you spot it?
Yes, I was just getting down to this. Tom Holden's asked, are you directing live? Yeah, we are directing live as much as we can. It obviously works better for certain types of songs. Trying to direct an up-tempo at the moment is a bit hilarious when we've tried it. We tend to use tracks more for uppies, but for ballads and for polecats and everything, we're just getting into that use of directing. And if anything, that's more from me and Richard as the directors' responsibilities, rather than any limitations on the software. More things like you're directing and then you realize that your hands have gone out of frame of the webcam and people haven't seen your cutoff, because naturally you're watching everybody else and then you've done a cutoff and they've only seen that. So it's little things like that. Because we've only been doing this for, 3 months now, we're all learning week on week to get this. So we're trying to incorporate as much live directing as we can in this, but we've had a lot of focus recently as well on sectional work and everything as well, haven't we, Richard?
Yes, yes. And I mean, from the directing point of view, some of us are slower learners than others.
No names mentioned.
I'm one of these people who, unless I can actually direct what I'm hearing immediately, I get paranoid about it, and that there is still a slight lag on it. Yeah. So, but someone like Mark's brilliant at it. He can direct it, directing in advance of what he's hearing, you know, and but it's only a small amount, and I'm sure that with time we're going to get better at this. But it's fair to say that is a challenge, let's put it that way. We had Dominic visit us on Wednesday, didn't we, from Germany? I know you're there somewhere, Dominic, aren't you? I think you're there anyway.
He directed as well, didn't he?
He had to go as well, yeah.
Very nice to sing along with Dominic's direction.
So, you know, it can be done, not by me.
I'm just conscious of time as well. Yep. We're here for three more minutes. Is that right, Simon? I think.
Yeah, yes, we started just after, but yes, they're there.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Just stop us when you need to. I'm just working my way through the questions, if that's all right. So Mike Cowman's asked, have you tried chorus singing without a guide track? Yes, with the directions. If you ask the chorus, this is what we found on when we were just using Jamulus. Without a guide track, the chorus did progressively slow down because you always kind of tune to, I don't know if you've ever tried it where you stood on the risers and you just closed your eyes and sang. The first time you try it, you kind of always regress to the slowest member. It's like the chain is not stronger than its weakest link. The chorus is not quicker than its slowest member. But when you do it with the Jitsi as well, you can have the direction as well, as we've said. So there isn't always the need for a guide track. And to answer, somebody else had a question. If you put a track on and sing at the same time, does that increase the latency? No, it doesn't at all. If you see any questions, Richard, just jump in as well.
I was just enjoying listening to you.
Oh, that's fine. I'll keep going then. How does Jamulus, so question from Peter Whittle, how do you set up Jamulus to reduce individual singers' latencies, or does the software do that automatically? So that is generally the latency is, from my understanding, it's in part governed by their internet connection, which obviously we as directors or music leadership don't have the capability to change too much, but there are workarounds for it. We've been able to get some people with quite slow internet connections up to using this system. And sorry, I'm just trying to keep an eye on it as the questions keep coming in. So it's really, there are several workarounds in Jamulus, which the booklet that the information package that we can provide, I think goes into more details, but there are workarounds in the Jamulus software itself where you can reduce singers' latencies and give people that chance to catch up. And we're talking about adding on like 8 to 10 milliseconds on people as opposed to 5 milliseconds. So it's you wouldn't notice the difference when you add up that extra bit.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here. The first one is, you didn't mention having an interface to plug your headphones and speakers into. Is the sync better with one? The idea is that the headset is a USB headset that plugs straight into the computer, and that is the best way to use it. One or two of us who've got the higher end mics and speakers can use the other stuff, but it's not what's recommended, to be honest. And the other one was, many laptops don't have an Ethernet port these days. Is there a workaround? And the answer to that is yes. You can go on to Amazon or somewhere like that, and you can buy an adapter that will go in the USB port. So it's literally the USB at one end of it, and the Ethernet cable goes in at the other end, and that's it. It's just a few quid.
Yeah. There's just, maybe we have time for one or two more questions. I've got one here from Colin Barnes asking about breakup rooms within Jamulus. So that kind of goes back to what Richard had on his description, when, you know, how he had like the tenors, leads, baritones, basses. Basically, how it works on Jamulus, the way that we've got it set up is you have several server rooms, several addresses on the server, and we use one room for the main chorus where all of our members go to, and we have these other web addresses that are available and open at the same time. So all we would do, say, if we wanted to go into sections as for a breakout room, for example, we'd just say, okay, we're going off to sectionals for 15 minutes. Tenors are going into this room, leads are going into this room, and so on. And you just type in the different address in your web browser, in the Jamulus browser, and away you go. And it's all exactly the same. And then you come back in. It's as simple as telling people to go off to, you know, the room over there and then come back in 10 minutes. Whether or not they come back, though, depends on the section leader. I think that's the that's fair to say as well, isn't it? Some don't run to time.
We do often find ourselves going back to the main room and no one else has appeared.
I'm not saying it's always the basis, but you know. Is there one more question anywhere just before we? Just going through.
Oh, that bottom one that's just come on is important. If you need a lot from Carlo, if you need a long Ethernet cable, you can use the electric plugs to plug a shorter Ethernet. That is true, but that also can very likely introduce breakage in the signal.
Yep. Yeah.
When I first started doing it, I actually sort of annoyed my wife by having a 25-meter Ethernet cable going from my study upstairs down to the router on the front doorstep.
Paul, I don't know if you had a question, or do we have time for that, Simon?
Yeah, I think that probably will be it after Paul.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm just interested to know about any security concerns, particularly when you're using a public server rather than a private server. And I'm also aware that there's a Jamulus operating system that you can use. I'm just wondering if that's what you need to load to actually use the software. Thank you.
So the operating system, yes, you do use that on the server. As far as I'm aware, it's not the end of things that I'm familiar with, if I'm honest, Paul. But yes, you do use that operating system. We've not got any issues with security that I'm aware of. Again, that's a question. Would you do me a favor? Would you write to Frank, please, and ask him on technology? Yeah.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you.
I'd rather you had the right answer from the right man rather than me sort of fudging it. Okay, I think we've probably reached the end of our time space, haven't we?
Fantastic. Goes so quickly.
Well, thank you all for turning up. You know, a tremendous number of people. I do hope we haven't bored you to death, but it's really, really important that if you want to have a go at this, do get in contact with us, please.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Mark. It's fantastic.
Great session. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye now.